The following events were originally recorded on a piece of paper found in a destroyed farmhouse in Vladimir, Russia. The paper was mildly burnt and torn and lying next to a firearm. The names of the personnel have been changed to protect the identities of the deceased. This is being posted for public awareness on the current matter. After the destruction at Chernobyl, the USSR sent a hazmat unit to investigate possible mutation of organic material inside the city. The team never reported back and were placed as MIA and presumed dead. Police units later found a torn piece of lined notebook paper and a .44 Magnum revolver covered in a black liquid consistent of glue and filled with human DNA. After this discovery, the USSR deleted all records of the personnel and the operation. A scientist, who could no longer live in guilt, told the UN of the operation and released the contents of the paper into public. Below is the complete transcript of the paper. Reminder, this has been posted for public awareness. Our boots crunched underneath the ashen grounds of our once beautiful Pripyat as we entered the dead city. An empty swing set squeaked in the wind as it gently pushed back and forth. The Ferris wheel whistled and groaned against the rush of air. "This is pointless," Kalor called to us. "Not a soul could have survived this." I didn't respond. I usually wouldn't. I felt an ache for my homeland, devastated by the destruction. A city once teeming with parents and children, now an extinguished fire. We chose the school building as our first checkout. I remember it perfectly. It was 2 stories, made entirely out of stone. Windows with torn drawings made from school children were still hanging to the glass. It was our most fatal mistake. Kalor, McInthren, and I went through the front, while Takral and Exorin went through the back. Kalor kicked in the door, and we emerged inside, seeing concrete walls of gray. Filthy papers lied scattered, and the lockers blown open from the wind and rust. Only the vague gray light from outside gave us vision. We trudged down an empty hallway and arrived at an intersection. We decided to investigate a hallway black as night. Kalor tried a light switch, and it miraculously worked, giving the middle of the hallway a sharp glow. The 3 of us were about to descend when we heard Takrol's scream echo from the hallway. We immediately backed up against the walls of the doorway, calling his name and hearing no reply. Then a hideous, hideous laughter. Oh my God. The laughter bouncing off the walls and hitting our eardrums. When we heard both sounds stop, I walked down the hallway, aiming my weapon down the long stretch of concrete. In the light, I could see a hazmat uniform. I ripped off the mask and stared into the dead eyes of Takral. I noticed a knife gash buried deep in his neck. McIntyre and Kalor joined me. I began to feel a strong sense of paranoia and fear, and felt eyes in the shadows. Suddenly, Zoran swooshed us away, his knife dripping that blood as it dropped from the blade. I was afraid he'd stab us with it. He kept muttering about Takrol's eyes being a sacrifice to the devil, and then rambling about seeing the devil himself. He stuck his knife inside the socket and dug out Takrol's eye, slicing behind it and cutting around the edges. He loosened it and then tore it out. He stared into its pupil, turned around, and laughed at something in the dark. At that moment, a large claw shaped like a crescent moon wrapped around Zaron and dragged him into the darkness. Kalor, McIntyre, and I ran, our footsteps echoing across the halls. We were at the doorway when a force pushed McIntyre and I through the door. I tumbled through the ash and looked to see Kalor lying in the doorway. He was scrambling away from something, as if trying to crawl through the doorway, but it seemed like he was trapped there. Then suddenly, the same claws I saw take Azorin shoved themselves into his eyes. I heard him scream. Those screams. Oh, they haunt me to this very day. The 2 of us, McIntyre and I, ran to the edge of the forest. I was about to race into it when a strange creature, unlike anything I've ever before seen, emerged from the brush. It had black, soulless eyes that told me it could not see, with scars around the edges, as if they had once been stitched. Its skin was pale white and shrunken. Its ears were tiny circles next to its temples. Two long arms with claws were holding it up, while its crescent claws, now dripping with crimson blood, hung at its sides. Its screech still rings in my ears, which sounded disturbingly like a mix of human laughter and an awful roar of a lion. But the most troubling part of it was its mouth. It was shaped in a human-like smile that was never-ending, with scars at the edges of its mouth that cut all the way to its ears. It walked over to my trembling friend, took its claws, and ripped McIntyre's mouth into an unending grin like its. I could not take it any more. I ran as far as I could, and I finally collapsed outside an outpost. I was locked in an asylum, but I've escaped. Strange. Is it my imagination, or can I hear it calling my name? Dear God, there it is, the eye-taker staring, and yet not staring at me through the window, grinning. My pistol's lying on a coffee table, but I doubt it would work. Well, there's another way out. I believe I'll do that. The teller, name unknown, is believed to have committed suicide, and investigators have not recovered the body of the deceased. Further evidence suggests that the body was dragged away, as large mud trails began in what the investigators believe was once a living room and stops outside the forest that serves as a boundary to Chernobyl. Investigation also shows that there were two claw prints dug right outside what investigators think was a window. Further analysis shows the sightings of a similar creature in further photos inside rural parts of the United States, Russia, and Europe, yet the photos have been removed due to untold reasons. All personnel on this investigation permit that if the being is somehow seen, please report the incident to 911 and remain indoors, as the being now named as the Eye Taker is very, very hostile.